need of support right now. And playing political games with this moment in these crisis situations, these are the height of emergency situations, is just utterly irresponsible, and it is selfish.
There's a hurricane raging across the United States of America. A hurricane is an example of powerlessness. Or is it? People believe now, don't they, in weather experiments and weather manipulation? Let me know in the comments and chat what you think about that. I'm certainly not suggesting this hurricane is anything other than a natural event. But what it's done as a natural event is shown and unmasked the nature and attitude of those in power. It's created a spat between Governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, and Kamala Harris. Who do you think's the better leader? Who do you want in charge of a crisis? Who do you want making decisions about where your tax dollar goes and where your financing ends up? Seems that there's been a lot of money for Ukraine, not so much money for Maui. Seems that there was $2 trillion spent on that unwinnable mess of a war in Afghanistan. Is there enough money available for this crisis, this hurricane crisis? Who's going to take responsibility for it? Because Kamala Harris has just told us on The View she'd do exactly what Joe Biden do. And Joe Biden do maybe exactly what Hunter Biden do. Joe Biden, though, this is the extraordinary aspect of this story we'll be looking at, seems to be turning into a kind of usurper, like a sort of a serpent within the campaign of Kamala, saying unfavourable things. But first of all, let's look at the hurricane itself. Let's look at how it's being used politically. And remember, I'm looking at it from inside it. I'm not as close to it as the people like in Tampa and the people in Boca Grande and Sarasota. And I pray that those people will all be okay. Rumble have got a studio over there in Sarasota. I hope everyone's going to be okay, like Mikey, Jenna, and if anything happens to Isaac, I don't think I'll be okay with that. I hope you guys are all right. You're probably working from home today. I hope you're okay over there. Let's have a look at this hurricane. This is MSNBC bringing on hurricane expert. That's in inverted commas because I don't know if Bill Nye is a hurricane expert. He's a science guy, isn't he? But somehow he manages to turn a hurricane warning into propaganda for Kamala. This just shows you we're in a fully immersive snow globe of propaganda.
The other side, as we often call it, has no plans to address climate change, no plans for long-term dealing with these sorts of problems. If you have young voters out there, encourage them to vote. People say, what can I do about climate change? If we were talking about it, associating it with big storms like this, that would be really good. But the main thing is vote. Thank you.
That is amazing. That's Goebbels level. What should we do about the hurricane? Vote! I mean, Goebbels, he had some pretty crazy ideas, but I think it was coming from bad leadership, ultimately, from the other fella. But to turn from a hurricane warning, which is in a sense an opportunity for a neutral message, isn't it? That the hurricane will fall upon Democrats and Republicans alike, Christians and Muslims alike, straights and gays alike, black and white alike. The hurricane don't care. Now, of course, the climate change arguments are prominent, and the only reason I'm cynical about them as a person who loves this planet, of course, I live on it, my children live on it, loves the earth, believes in conservation, protection of our waters, protection of our forests, protection of our land, love of our nations, love of our soil, protect it and love it, is I've noticed whenever the climate change conversation is happening, it always seems to disempower individuals and empower centralized forces. Have you noticed that? Let me know in the comments and chat. It's usually, if you care about climate change, we're going to need you to pay more taxes or stay in your home or buy a certain car. It's never. And therefore, we are going to control the corporate excesses of energy giants, for example. Or it is always gives a little out, you know, a loophole for the powerful. That's, I would say, a hallmark of potential deception. Let me know what you think about that in the Rumble chat, though. Mrs. A. Watley and Mark LG and Eric 1568. All of you, I care about what you think about. We don't have to agree with each other in here, but we do have to openly communicate. That's what Rumble's about. Free speech. That's what we're here to do. Okay, let's have a look at the rest of Bill Nye's crazy vote for not hurricane.
How much of an impact do you see climate change playing in all of these explanations that you've given us? How much do you see climate change as being a part of that?
Oh, it's no question, everybody. Look, in climate science, everybody has been studying this for years. Everybody has been commenting, scientific papers have been written about how warm the ocean is around the Florida Peninsula. And it's this warm water that is driving these storms and enabling it to have to intensify so quickly. Everybody, be careful out there. Let's get through this.
So, Bill Nye is pretty certain that the hurricane is the fault of people not voting for the Democrat Party. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, believes the hurricane is Ron DeSantis' fault. How though?
Governor DeSantis, NBC is reporting Governor DeSantis is ignoring your calls on hurricanes, resources, and help. How does that hurt the situation here?
You know, moments of crisis, if nothing else.
I don't think they should do those interviews on airports, do you? Like, it's always sort of annoying. Whoever's doing it, that racket in the background. Is it to make them look important, sort of thing? Like, oh, this is so urgent. The only moment you can get is the moment when they're sort of being transported. It's an interesting template, visual template that's used throughout the presidency. I suppose it sort of lends, like, various presidents throughout history have done that interview. I've seen Joe Biden doing them. I've seen like people like Nixon doing them. Like, it's the elevate the status of the office. I wonder if it's a time where we should consider, the nature of the role of the president. Wouldn't the kind of ultimate federalization be the further empowerment of various governors, and then they are responding to sort of the people in various boroughs, mayors, I guess, that work with them? Wouldn't we sort of like invert the pyramid? So at the bottom of the pyramid is the most powerful person, the president, ultimate servant, like the role of Jesus, the most powerful person, God come to earth, is a servant. Why don't we emulate those systems? I think it's a good idea. And like above that, governments and everyone, like they're in service. Not like, I'm here at an airport, I'm doing something so important, bungling. Like, what? I bet in a minute she'll say, what should we do about Ron DeSantis? Never mind that. I was cooking bacon for Huey, Louie and Dewey the other day. I got a phone call. Joe Biden's dropped out of the race. Senility, he said. We can't continue to bring you this beautiful content without the support of our partners. The Wellness Company are absolutely fantastic partners to our show. I'll tell you why. Who doesn't want to be independent when it comes to the subject of health? Do you trust this government and the institutions and bureaucracies of health to look after you and your family? For the first time since 1977, 85,000 East Coast port union workers are on strike at 36 different ports. Biden and Kamala have dismissed the issue out of hand. The International Longshoremen's Association and the Maritime Alliance failed to reach an agreement. Can you believe it? Shipments are frozen and supply chain predictions are worse even than in COVID. This is a proper supply chain issue. Essential goods and medications could at any point become hard to access. The Wellness Company invests in holding life-saving medications specifically for crisis like this one. There are 5 different emergency kits that include an array of life-saving medications backed by Dr. Peter McCulloch. In a crisis, having these kits means you're prepared when everyone else is scrambling. Get your kit before supplies run out. Head to twc.health/brand. That's twc.health/brand. Use the code BRAND to get $40 off plus free shipping. Secure your kits while supplies last. They're a really good partner, the Wellness Company. Pete McCulloch's a good guy. These kits are a good idea for you and your family. I'm sure you want to protect them in the event of supply chain breakdowns. Let's go back to the content.
Should really be the moment that anyone who calls themselves a leader says they're going to put politics aside and put the people first.
She's saying put politics aside while politicizing the issue. Did you know that?
People are in desperate need of support right now, and playing political games with this moment in these crisis situations, these are the height of emergency situations, is just utterly irresponsible, and it is selfish, and it is about political gamesmanship instead of doing the job that you took an oath to do, which is to put the people first.
She was doing the thumb thing, man. She was doing the thumb thing. Amazing. That tells you all you need to know, that even the sort of apparent inadvertent gestures are themselves coached, because some time ago people were told don't point. People don't like being pointed at. Do this instead. People love that. Here's Joe Biden undermining that message, God love him, by saying that Ron DeSantis is doing a great job. So what do we believe? Is the hurricane a sort of a natural phenomena? Is the hurricane did Donald Trump cause it somehow? Like none of the arguments make any sense, because say climate change, all of us are surely still not seething, smirking, smiling, giggling at the memory of John Kerry, Democrat climate czar, flying around the world in a private jet, telling people to decrease the size of their carbon footprint. There's no cohesion in their arguments. How could there be? Because there isn't. An argument requires a position, and a position requires virtue, and virtue requires either God or something that essentially functions as God, i.e. some universal or at least reliable principles. They don't have those. They're in campaign mode, full flight from reality. What's going on? It's like that airport where Joe Biden. He's not about to concentrate there.
The governor of Florida has been cooperative. He said he's gotten all that he needs. I talked to him again yesterday, and I said, I said, no, you're doing a great job. It's all being done well. We thank you for it. And I literally gave my personal phone number to call. So I don't know.
It's funny when people say stuff like that, isn't it? I literally gave him my personal phone number. I suppose because he is just a person, albeit living in a pretty unusual situation. This has never happened, has it, in American political history, that a sit-in president has resigned, sort of, cause a senescence, or stepped down, but is still sort of the president, while the VP campaigns claiming that she was side by side with every decision that Joe Biden made, but also that she is turning a new page. It's a level of contradiction and madness, a kind of havoc, I would call it. It's havoc. Out of havoc, eventually authoritarianism comes. Now, what the incumbents will argue is that authoritarianism is the sort of retro-nationalist militarism of a figure like Trump. But what I'm arguing is that it's new emergent forms of totalitarian control through bureaucracy, through care. That's what scares me most. We care about you so much. Because of climate change, you got to stay in your homes. Because of this new disease, you better take this injection. Because of this new war, I'm afraid we're all going to have to sit still, sit on our hands and do nothing. Terrifying, really.
There was a rough start in some places, but every governor from Florida to North Carolina has been fully cooperative and supportive and acknowledged what this team is doing, and they're doing an incredible job. But we got a lot more to do.
Okay, well, there he was. God love him, trying his absolute level best to make sense of it all. Here is Ron DeSantis responding to Kamala's claim that he ignored her phone calls. And again, I ask you this question. Who would you prefer to be dealing with a crisis, Ron DeSantis or Kamala Harris, or neither? What kind of systems do you think ought be in place? How do you think your tax dollars should be spent? Would you like to see America getting out of all of these foreign wars and their funding and then focusing instead on domestic issues and looking after American citizens, ensuring that there are significant FEMA relief funds when there are hurricanes or fires or the tragic events that occur in the course of the life of any nation? What are the virtues? What are the principles? What are the priorities of your president, of your nation, of your state? Who do you trust? Let's have a look at Ron DeSantis' response to Kamala Harris.
And we've been laser focused on leveraging all resources available, including from the federal government. And I've been in touch with both FEMA and the president, as well as marshaling all our state agencies and working to support our local communities. And so for Kamala Harris to try to say that my sole focus on the people of Florida is somehow selfish is delusional.
That's good. Delusional. Someone explained to me the other day, and I love this, the difference between illusion and delusion. Let me know in the chat if you understand what I'm talking about already and see if you can beat me to the punch. An illusion would be if you walked into your room and out the corner of your eye, you see a bit of rope and you thought, oh no, it's a snake. Then you look and you think, oh no, it's actually just a bit of rope. What's that doing in my bedroom? Who am I? Mike Hutchins? What kind of life am I living that there's rope lying around the floor like that? Delusion would be you look down, you think out the corner of your eye that you see a snake, you look down, it's a rope, but you cannot see it's a rope. In your mind, you maintain the idea that it's a serpent, it's a snake. You've been co-opted, you're being controlled, you're being ciphered. There's almost a sort of a mind virus that's gotten hold of you that prevents you from seeing reality as it is. That you yourself have just become a conduit, a delusional conduit. You live in a different and separate reality. Of course, in a way, we all live in different separate realities, don't we? Variances in our perceptions, our understandings, our background, our trauma, and our scars. But without a consensus, you can't form a community far less a nation. Who do you think presents a better and more cohesive vision when it comes to the United States of America right now? Let me know, Wake and Wonders, in the locals chat. Let me know, Rumble chat. I'm talking to the likes of you, Mrs. A. Watley, a filthy casual, and Flickford and Matthew McGee. Bots, though, you guys, we don't care what you think. You ain't nothing but a bot, baby. We don't care about what bots have got to say. Simply irrelevant. Let's have a look at the rest of Ron DeSantis' response in the midst of this hurricane. And my prayer is, of course, that those people that are in the front line, those people that are in the path will be protected and safe, and that there will be resources available to help them rebuild their lives and homes if indeed that's what's required to happen. And I say that from Florida, from Miami, but not from the center of Florida. So, you know, I was taught that we should never take on other people's pain. That's not what compassion is. It's to be aware of their pain and be available in some form of service. What's that going to mean now? Fundraising. They'll be telling us that we need to raise funds now, right? Because all the money's gone to various wars.
She has no role in this. In fact, she's been vice president for 3.5 years. I've dealt with a number of storms under this administration. She has never contributed anything to any of these efforts. And so what I think is selfish is her trying to blunder into this. No, and here's the thing. She has no role. No, she has no role in this process. I'm in contact with the President of the United States. I'm in contact with FEMA director. I'm obviously managing all our state agencies. We're supporting all our local government. And I will say this. I've had storms under both President Trump and President Biden, and I've worked well with both of them. She's the first one who's trying to politicize the storm, and she's doing that just because of her campaign. She's trying to get some type of an edge. She knows she's doing poorly, and so she's playing these political games. I don't have time for political games. I've got people whose lives are on the line. I've got people whose homes and their possessions are on the line, and we are focused 100% on that mission. I'm not worried about playing her political games, and so she is being selfish by trying to blunder into this when we're working just fine.
That hurricane looks pretty intense, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know how to read meteorological heat maps or wind maps or whatever that is, but it looks pretty terrifying. So the prayer is that those that are mostly affected are supported and protected, of course, by whatever forces are available, but definitely by FEMA. Interesting to hear Ron DeSantis talk about personal experience dealing with Kamala Harris while she's been in the White House for the last 3.5 years. And I think that's something you have to remember, whether it's in the campaign or the hurricane of the campaign. We have to remember that when someone's telling you that they're turning the page when in fact they wrote that page and they plan to be on the very next page, that is akin to duplicity. We have to recognize that a figure like Donald Trump, and I know a lot of you guys love Donald Trump anyway and don't need to be told this, is likely a wrecking ball of the intentions of the corporate globalists who want citizen management to the max, the ability to administer medicines. And it shows me most of all that free speech is absolutely vital. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments in the chat. I pray you stay safe in this hurricane. And if you're watching this on YouTube, turn on the notification bell. Our new The Oracle series, our first ever group interviews designed to bring the greatest and most authoritative voices in particular subjects together for the very first time. Robert Malone, Dr. Pierre Corey, and Steve Kirsch.
What we've experienced is a globally deployed psychological bioterrorism playbook. It's well developed.
And then I started to see just global propaganda directed at essentially distorting, dismissing, and suppressing the evidence of efficacy. And I saw it as a crime.
And at that point, I knew that this was not just a coincidence. There were too many black swans over too short a period. I've never heard anything like this story in my life.
They seem to get the human psyche so well when it comes to brainwashing us and propagandizing us to the direction that they want us to go in, that you would think that they would know that pulling all of these various tactics would actually just push support towards Trump, not away from him.
Ryan Ruth, some of his posts even show that he appeared to have been working with, in his own words, the U.S. Embassy in Kiev. He's doing effectively military intelligence, human trafficking of terrorists.
It's in this context that I think Ruth was kind of radicalized. He decided that while he wanted to assassinate Putin, the easier thing would be to assassinate Donald Trump.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.